way this went down is I got a text after I was trying to do with Michael Andretti, and they weren't quite having the whole BitNile versus Avalanche cryptocurrency thing working out. I was getting a little frustrated, and I get a text message. They misspell your name.
Happens
and
often.
It says Travis Pastrana wants to meet you with whoever that was. It didn't spell your name correct. And Alexander Rossi. I'm like, well, Rossi already has a ride. I'm not sponsoring Travis because he's not in IndyCar, and I don't know who the hell this other guy is. So everyone's all coming out to meet, and they're calling me at 2 o'clock saying, are you going to take the meeting? I'm like, who's it with? I don't care about, I love Travis, but I'm not going to sponsor Travis. And Alexander Rossi already has a ride. And I found out it was Conor Daly. Now, earlier the year before, Conor led 40 laps of the Indy 500, actually led the most laps that year. Mm-hmm. And the last couple of years, I think you finished 5th and 8th. Is that correct?
6th and 8th, yeah.
6th and 8th. So Conor is a local in Indiana, an Indy 500. How many Indy 500s you raced?
10 so far.
10.
I think 10 or 11, yeah.
So Conor's the first IndyCar driver I sponsored ever. So Conor, what were you doing for F1?
So over the weekend, yeah, and thank you for those remarks, by the way. I appreciate it. It was a great meeting. We had a great time.
We did.
But yeah, over this weekend, I was commentating for the Formula One race. Obviously, there was a lot going on in the city on the Strip, and Formula One brought me in. I've got a lot of history with a lot of the drivers that are currently racing and teams I've been involved with in the past. On my way up through the ladder, I was a Formula One test driver and won races in Europe for years. So got to race with a lot of those guys, know a lot of the teams, and it was really cool to work with Formula One.
But
and it was a fun race.
You raced for Andretti. Let's talk about who you raced for. Ed Carpenter, Andretti, Meyershank. What are some of the other teams you raced for?
All of them except for 2. So every single team, really, except for Ganassi and Penske. So
and then last year, you did your first Daytona 500.
Yeah, that was also
If
interesting.
you guys want to enjoy yourself, I saw Conor and I said, "Hey, I want you to drive the Daytona 500." And Conor said, "Yeah, I'll drive anything, right?" And so, if you have a chance, you should go to YouTube and type in BitNile Daytona 500 Conor Daly.
It might look funny at first, but
it might look funny at first because the car was all bouncing around.
It was a humorous situation, but we ended up becoming only like the 29th driver to do both Indy 500 and Daytona 500 in the same year.
Right, so Conor raced both races
that's
the same year.
thanks to you.
And you had to drive to qualify. So tell everyone about that, how that happened.
Yeah, so we had to race our way into the Daytona 500. It has a different way to qualify. There's obviously like more, 42 cars try to make it for 38 spots or something like that. And we had to race our way in, and we did do that, but we didn't get to practice or qualify. So the first time we actually drove the car, me physically had ever been in the car or driven it on an oval was the duel. They have a race to get in the race, essentially.
I want to say this again. Conor was not allowed to practice before he raced in the Daytona 500. He was not allowed to drive the car before he had to drive to get into the Daytona 500.
Well, we were going to, but it broke down, so that also didn't help us either. But yeah, the car was a bit broken by the time we got out there, but we still ended up pushing through, making it through the race, and then actually making it in the race as well, which was a big deal, and it was cool to be a part of that. I mean, it's a, if you know sporting events in America, we have the Super Bowl, we have the NBA Championship, we have the Indy 500, and we have the Daytona 500. Like, those are kind of things that most people would at least be aware of. So it was pretty cool to be a part of both of those in 1 year, really.
What are your plans for next year?
I don't know. I don't know yet. We're going to go racing somewhere.
Yeah, we're racing, sure. Will you be in the Indy 500 again this year?
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll definitely be in the Indy 500. We have a lot of other plans, hopefully, that we can make happen. And there's an amazing. I've come to know that life is really good, and we're in a great spot now. It's great to be here and see all these people, and it's the off season, which is actually quite nice because we can kind of look forward, be excited about what's coming, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. So
what did you think of the F1 race? What did you actually think of it?
The F1 race.
I mean, Max won, so it's a little boring.
But the race itself actually was pretty good. I expected it to be boring, but I actually enjoyed it. I don't know how, like a lot of people have obviously different feelings about it. I'm not a Vegas local, but I've been to Vegas a lot. My dad used to have a racing school at the track that most of you were at yesterday. And so we very familiar with this city, and it was crazy. I mean, there's a lot of words that I can use to describe it. It was, I mean, I saw just so many high-level human beings, celebrities, people that I never would have thought would have consumed a motor race. But it also, they did a great job with the facility. Like, I was impressed by it. So I hope that people respond well to it. It seemed like a good product. The race was better than a Formula One race normally is. Normally they're quite boring, I would say. But yeah, I was impressed. I think Vegas did a great job too, like the city. I think they did a great job.
They did. Everyone, Conor Daly.